Welcome. You're watching At Space, where we get Humans editor R. Sukumar's views on the news that matter this week. R. Sukumar is already here with us. Thank you so much for joining us, Sukumar. It was a news with a heavy news flow, but let me begin by the news that caught a lot of attention, which was the Supreme Court's verdict on the highly and the keenly watched coal block allocation scam. It has given its verdict that the executive did interfere with the CBI investigation, came down hard both on the Central Bureau of Investigation and the government, calling the former a caged parrot and clarifying that the executive has no business interfering in CBI's investigation, even if it has the administrative powers to oversee its functioning. How much does this add to the embarrassment of the ruling UPA that already has its bag full of controversies?
The one thing we must remember is the final verdict is still not out, right? What the court has passed so far are several observations on this, and it's asked CBI to do certain things, it's asked government to do certain things, and the final order will come in July, which of course the government is trying to use as a backdoor. You know, there's something that they can that can help them escape. But what it does indicate is that this government, which over the last 4 years has fumbled along from one controversy to another, and now increasingly finds itself in a position where someone has to step up and be accountable. And when I say be accountable, you can be accountable in two ways. One, you can put your hand up and say, listen, we know this is a problem, we're going to set it right. Two, someone can put up their hand and say, listen, we messed up, I'm quitting. And unfortunately, the person who should do that is the Prime Minister, right? Either he takes charge and says, I'm going to clean this up, or he says, I've been unable to sort this out. Whatever happened, you know, because there's one school of thought that says he didn't know, and then there's one school of thought that says he knew and he didn't interfere. And both are equally bad, right? It's not as if one is better than the other. If you're the Prime Minister, you are supposed to know. Ignorance is not a good defense, especially if you're the Prime Minister of this country. And that kind of accountability, that kind of responsibility is something that we are not seeing in the current dispensation. And I actually, in some ways, I feel sorry for the Congress, because if you're the Congress party, what do? You can't effect a change in leadership right now, because you're going to the polls maybe sometime this year, if some rumors are to be believed. Probably next year, if they stick to schedule. And you can't go to polls having just changed your leadership. So they will have to stick with the current Prime Minister for quite some time. And he's really not lived up to the role.
That's right. Now let's move on to the only piece of good news probably that the Congress has heard in a while, and an important one, and that the victory in the state elections of Karnataka. More a BJP rout than a Congress victory?
No, I think, you know, this is like saying, you know, in a cricket match, the batsman scored a century because the bowlers bowled badly. I think you have to give credit to both sides. Look at the larger picture, right? You look at Karnataka, progressive state, lots of entrepreneur-driven companies there. The IT revolution was born there, still continues to thrive there. One of the first states in this country to have lots of active citizen participation in various initiatives to improve governance. Not really with government support in all cases, but all of that, which means there's a lot of civic mindedness. The people are a little more evolved in terms of their roles and responsibilities as citizens. And if you look at the last 20-25 years, I think this state has been very unlucky, because it's got the worst governments and the worst chief ministers possible. You know, they've really moved from one bad government to another bad government. And if you look at it over a period of time, you have a long list of people, you know, starting from Gundu Rao, and then Dharam Singh, and then Yediyurappa and Sadanand Gowda. So I don't think it's really a party kind of thing. So it's just that the governance there has really left a lot to be desired. And the BJP government that just lost and has gone out of power was among the worst that the state had seen. There was infighting, there were allegations of corruption, there was a three-way split of the party. There was this big mining scam that happened when they were in power.
So more a vote for change.
I think, and people want better. You know, that's unfortunately a state that needs better. You know, it's a state that deserves better. It's not got better so far. There's no guarantee that the current government will live up to the promise and everything else, but at least it's a new government. They can start on a clean slate.
Right.
and who knows, they may be good.
Let's now lastly touch upon the stock markets. They've had a great week. Today itself, Sensex breached the 20,000 mark and it's a fresh 3-month high. Of course, it comes on the back of increased foreign inflows and a better than expected IIP number coming in at 2.5%. Do you think this rally would continue?
Yeah, anyone's guess, right? Because the way the markets behave is always, it's no indication of economic fundamentals. It's no indication of corporate fundamentals. Increasingly, it's not even continuing to be an indication of the political stability or the lack of political stability, because they sort of, the market
clearly ignoring what's happening otherwise on the
I
national
think
scale.
it's largely liquidity driven, right? I mean, there's just so much of money which is flowing in that is making the Sensex rise. Will it continue if money continues to flow in? Sure, but I think if we see more strictures from the Supreme Court, if we see a situation where policy making almost comes to a halt, because you must remember that things are poised pretty precariously. Global investors, the people who are investing in the stock markets are doing so, but I don't think they're doing so from a very, very long-term perspective. If you look at the corporate investors, you look at Vodafone, you look at Shell, and now you look at some of the auto companies, and many of them have got embroiled in lots of problems in India. Some of these, the companies may be at fault. It's very easy to pass off one item you're importing as another category of item, and the tax rates are different. So the taxman could have a point. But in some cases where you're trying to invest in your subsidiary, and then the government tries to put a valuation to that and then says it's undervalued, and then there's a tax implication and everything else, it seems a little far-fetched. And these people are not happy, right? And these are large companies. You look at the boards of these companies, they are filled with corporate and legal luminaries who exert influence in boardrooms around the world. And the message all of them have walked away with is that policy making is not particularly stable. So I think they're just waiting for a little bit of a trigger. If something adverse happens, you'll see many of these people exit the country. So I don't think I'm going to put my neck on the line and say that next 3 months this rally is going to continue. The money is flowing in right now, so people are investing.
It's more for profit making and speculative.
But I have a sense that it's all hot money.
Right, more speculative in nature. On that note, Sukumar, we'll wrap up this edition of Headspace. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you all for watching.